Mr. Chairman. For the past year and a half, we've seen a pattern from the Biden administration of nominating ideological zealots to our courts. A moment ago, Ms. Abudu, in answering questions from Senator Lee, you said you understood the difference between an advocate and a judge. Well, I'm sure you do. You've never served as a judge. You've spent your entire life as an advocate. And as an advocate on the extreme left, there has been a pattern of nominee after nominee that have been extreme zealots. But I have to say your nomination, when I look at your record, I find deeply concerning. The last 3 years you've served at the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center is a hateful and extreme place. And their hate, among other things, has led to horrific violence. I'm speaking in particular about the 2012 shooting at the Family Research Council here in Washington. There, a gunman sought to make a political statement by shooting as many members of the Family Research Council as possible, and he sought to smear their faces with Chick-fil-A sandwiches after he murdered them. He was only stopped due to the heroic efforts of the Family Research Council employee, Leo Johnson, whose courage saved many lives that day. The evidence in the case indicated that the shooter had assembled his targets by visiting the Southern Poverty Law Center website of so-called hate groups, where the Southern Poverty Law Center equated the Family Research Council with true bigoted hate groups like the KKK and the Nazi Party. Do you agree with your employer that the Family Research Council is equivalent to the KKK or the Nazi Party?
Senator Cruz, I would first respectfully state that although, yes, I have spent a big chunk of my career as a civil rights lawyer. Early on in my career, I was actually a staff attorney with the 11th Circuit. So I started my career and my understanding of the legal profession from the position of being and representing the court to some extent. And making
okay, but being a staff attorney is not a judge. So could you answer the question, please?
Well, in terms of the...
Do you agree with your employer that the Family Research Council is comparable to the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party?
Senator, as I shared with your colleagues earlier, I can't comment to that. I'm in the legal department.
Well, why can't you? I'm asking if you agree with them. You work for them. That's what they say. Their hateful rhetoric led to an attempted murder. Do you agree with them? You went to work for them knowing that their hate had led to this violence. Do you agree with that or not?
I went to work for the SPLC to help lead its voting rights practice group, and that is.
Do you agree with your employer?
Senator, again,
So you're going to refuse to answer that?
Senator, again, I can't speak to work that I did not do.
You can say whether you agree with it or not, correct?
I cannot speak to work, Senator Cruz, that I did not do.
Do you agree with the statement, the Family Research Council is equivalent to the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party, yes or no?
I cannot speak to a statement where I played no role in the research or the writing or the publication because I did not, Senator Cruz, respectfully.
I didn't ask if you did it. You went to work for them. Do you agree with them? You're refusing to answer that. Let's move on. What is a white supremacist?
Senator, my general understanding is that a white supremacist is someone who hates people simply based on the color of their skin.
Okay, your current employer has labeled 3 members of this committee, myself, Senator Hawley, and Senator Blackburn, as white supremacists. Do you agree with that characterization?
Senator, I have never referred to you or any member of this committee.
Has the Southern Poverty Law Center done so?
I'm not familiar with the exhaustive list of policymakers that might have been researched and profiled by another department within the organization that I'm
How many members of the United States Senate do you believe are white supremacists?
Senator, again, sitting here before you, I would not call any single member of Congress.
But you're proud to work for an organization that does.
I'm proud to do voting rights work on behalf of an organization that provides pro bono counsel to individuals, especially low-income individuals.
So let me ask you, how could anyone who is not on the radical left, how could someone who's pro-life, how could someone who's conservative, how can someone who's religious have any degree of confidence if they were to appear in a court with you as a judge? You've spent a lifetime working for groups that smear half this country as white supremacists and Klansmen. That is offensive. My dad came as an immigrant to this country from Cuba with nothing. That is hateful language. How could any litigant expect to get a fair shot if you were a judge, given your advocacy and history of extreme advocacy?
Because, Senator Cruz, my father came to this country with nothing in his pocket as well.
But why don't you give that grace to others?
I do, Senator. That's what my religious freedom, my free speech work, my voting rights work, my criminal justice work, Senator Cruz, all of that work that I've done represents my commitment to making sure that all people at least have equal access to justice and equal justice under law.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to again point out this incredible moment in American history. There's just never been a day like this in all of America, where we've had two panels that represent such extraordinary diversity. Frankly, two panels of women who are bringing to the federal judiciary, or potentially bringing to the federal judiciary, such profound diversity. And I am excited. Ms. Chowdhury, I am extraordinarily excited to see you. I had the privilege of recommending to the president the first ever Muslim judge. And now I get to see the second ever Muslim judge, potentially, who is also the first ever female. And that is just truly worthy of celebration and rejoicing. Ms. Murrell, you're making my friend cry over to your left. And I wish you would refrain from bringing her to tears anymore in this proceeding. Could you try that? Okay. All right. So let me jump right in, Ms. Chowdhury, back to you. I think it's, and this is me speaking, I'm not asking you to even comment on this, but I think we have a crisis in America that African Americans are more than 3 times more likely to be shot by the police than white Americans. And the cases are troubling and hurtful. And not just to black Americans, they're hurtful to all Americans. In fact, I would venture to guess that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle feel that this is problematic. And I've had some courageous statements said by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle as well. People with mental illness are 12 times, if I have my data right, more likely to be shot by the police. And that should generate the same kind of outrage. But talking to those issues, even passionately, does not in any way mean that you don't support the police and don't see the urgent need for them. And you said a few moments ago, and I'm not sure if it got through, but I want to, again, just this time I am asking you a question. Would you please affirm that your support of policing the United States of America?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. Public safety is deeply important, and I do believe law enforcement have a challenging and important job. And as I mentioned earlier, I have worked closely with law enforcement in cities like Boston, in Biloxi, Mississippi, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Chicago to solve these complicated problems and to advance constitutional and effective policing, whether it was through settling major litigation concerning Milwaukee's stop and frisk program to, I believe, mutual good ends and for the benefit of both officers as well as
I think you're humble. You say mutually good ends. I think you've done extraordinary work. I'm familiar with your record in that space. And you've served law enforcement and communities. And many Americans don't know this. I don't know if you know this, but the majority of people murdered in the United States are black men. Are you aware of that? Yeah. And communities like the one I live in, which is majority minority, they really want police protection, right? Yes, thank you. You know that. Ms. Murrell.
Good afternoon, Senator.
You have to hold true to what I said. Don't make my friend cry, okay? You've dedicated your life to doing the kind of work that doesn't really bring a lot of resources. You're not getting a lot of, you didn't go into law to make money, did you?
I did not.
You had options to do a lot more, right? To make a lot more money put before you, correct?
That's correct.
But you chose instead a career that isn't a traditional pathway to the federal bench. It isn't a traditional pathway to great resources. Why do you do what you do? Why have you done what you've done, rather?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I think the bottom line is because I love this country, because I love the ideals of what it stands for. I believe in the rule of law and want to ensure that equal justice applies for everyone, that everyone has the benefit of equal justice.
Thank you. That is a profound statement. You love your country. You believe in the hope of America. You believe in the promise of the legal system. And I'm excited about the prospect of you being a federal judge. Ms. Alba, I have to be careful now because I'm sitting next to the guy that introduced you, and he intimidates me. But I just want to ask you the same question before I conclude. You've had a lot of options in your life, and you seem to have chosen a path of public service. Can you speak to that for a moment for me?
Yes, thank you, Senator Booker. I did. I was very fortunate, as I mentioned in my opening statement. I come from parents who raised us with core values of humility, honesty, hard work, and I brought those with me. I could have stayed in the Bay Area. I could have had a job that was more profitable, but I wanted to come home. I wanted to go back to the Central Valley. I wanted to do work that would help bring equality and justice to my community there. And I was very fortunate to be at a firm that allowed me to do that, as well as do some just great work, not just on behalf of people, but I worked for companies, I represented banks, I represented corporations. I got to do the gamut of all of it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, you are a credit to your community, and your loyalty to that community is extraordinary. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams. You know that. And I will conclude by saying a few statements that I know have never before been said in a hearing. But con la ayuda de Dios, Bizrat Hashem, Insha'Allah, God willing, the three of you, with the help of God, will be federal judges. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator.